Every state in the country is confronting the question how to open schools during a pandemic. Today, Governor Pete Ricketts hosted a news conference centered on that issue. He said he wants to see all schools in Nebraska open up next month. Reporter John Kipper was in Lincoln and tells us how state officials plan to do that.
When the coronavirus outbreak started in March, Governor Pete Ricketts ordered all schools in Nebraska to shut down and go to remote learning. Things have changed.
Broadly speaking, we're in a much different position now than we were in March.
Governor Ricketts says we now have a better infrastructure in place to contain the virus, including expanded testing and contact tracing. We also know more about COVID-19.
The early research shows that younger kids are not as impacted by the coronavirus, that they don't tend to transmit it as much.
Still, Ricketts says the decisions lie with local school boards and that it's almost a building by building decision at times. He says one way that schools can open up and stay open is wearing masks and spreading out the students.
If they are able to, say, have students be 6 foot apart in a classroom and they're all wearing masks, that is going to be a much easier environment to be able to say, hey, you can, if one child tests positive, it's not a close contact, everybody can come back to class the next day.
And what happens when and if a student or teacher gets the virus? Education Commissioner Matthew Bloomstead says they'll quickly contact trace, temporarily shut down the school, and then open it back up.
Try to make sure that those folks are able to go ahead and isolate and then get back to school as quickly as possible, as quickly as they can. So that's the real key.
One part of the fall is still in question. Whether high school sports can go on or just cancel them in 2020. Ricketts wants to see student athletes being able to play.
The important thing is we've got to manage the risk, mitigate where we can, but also start returning to a more normal life. And I think sports are an important part of the school experience. And so we've got to figure out ways to be able to allow those sports.
Currently, residents in over half the states in the country are required to wear a mask when out in public. That is not the case in Nebraska, and Governor Pete Ricketts said today that he has no plans to put a mandate like that in place. Reporting in Lincoln, John Kipper, 3 News Now.
This afternoon, the Omaha Education Association, which represents OPS staff, called for full remote learning for the beginning of the school year. They cite the uptake of cases in Douglas County as reason to pause the reopening of schools.